I liked it. Of course, I'm detached.
Yes.
Sufficiently detached now because it's.
Charlie Chaplin, revered as a Hollywood legend for bringing joy to countless faces, harbored a darker side when it came to his interactions with women. Chaplin has been labeled a womanizer, accused of allegedly grooming numerous women. His narrative unfolds as a shadowy contrast to the brighter image associated with many other artists in the industry.
I think I say this without any false modesty. I think it has a certain charm.
As we all witnessed, the legal showdown in the High Court between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp has unearthed allegations of distressing domestic violence, defueled episodes, and sensational anecdotes, including claims of unconventional behavior like defecation in a bed. Surprisingly, this acrimonious public airing of a Hollywood couple's private affairs is not an unprecedented occurrence. One need only look back almost a century to find previous instances of marriages within the industry being thrust into the spotlight and subjected to public scrutiny. Charlie Chaplin, widely hailed as the preeminent comic artist in cinema and a significant cultural icon of the 20th century, gained global acclaim through his iconic screen persona, the Tramp. However, beneath the veneer of slapstick humor appears to be a darker side. Many who were acquainted with Chaplin personally described him as callous, exploitative, and even sadistic.
And it was more spontaneous, I think, then. That's why we indulged ourselves. Time wasn't the essence of anything.
In addition to his acclaimed filmmaking, Chaplin faced criticism for his serial womanizing, a predatory behavior that some argued bordered on criminal. This, coupled with his exacting standards as a filmmaker and a disconcerting tendency to harm those he professed to love, contributed to a complex and controversial reputation. Charlie Chaplin, while celebrated for his artistic genius, also carried the burden of being viewed as a sometimes tyrannical and self-obsessed individual, navigating a dichotomy of adulation and controversy.
Chaplin was a genius. He managed to express his liberal political belief and social injustice in his comedic art form. Chaplin was an overrated who married underage girls.
In 1927, the Superior Court of Los Angeles witnessed a divorce case involving Charlie Chaplin, the iconic figure whose persona Johnny Depp coincidentally drew inspiration from in his 1993 film Benny and Amp Joon. Chaplin's second wife, Lita Grey, filed for divorce, alleging that he had brandished a firearm and attempted to coerce her into undergoing an abortion. The divorce proceedings shed light on Chaplin's questionable conduct with several underage girls.
His success was idealized by a patriarchal society. No, it's not. No, it's not the same.
Born on April 16, 1889, in London, Charles Spencer Chaplin later migrated to America in 1913, transitioning from a vaudeville performer to a burgeoning star at Keystone Films. Chaplin's off-screen persona earned him a reputation as a relentless womanizer. Within 5 years of his arrival in the U.S., he wed his first wife, 16-year-old Mildred Harris. Chaplin pursued the young actress with flowers and gifts, ultimately marrying her due to a false pregnancy scare and the looming threat of scandal. A year after Mildred Harris gave birth, tragedy struck the Chaplin family. Norman Chaplin, their son, was born with malformed intestines and tragically passed away after just 72 hours. 2 days after their son's death, Chaplin left his young wife. The couple's marriage officially ended in November 1920, with Mildred citing Chaplin's short-tempered, impatient behavior and feeling mistreated. They finalized their divorce through an out-of-court settlement, with Mildred being awarded $200,000 and a share of the extensive property belonging to the wealthy actor.
Well, all through that picture, I was going through a great deal of trouble. And I noticed myself.
The relationship was just a dress rehearsal for the way Chaplin groomed, married, and his second wife, Lita Louise McMurray, whom Chaplin first set eyes on when she was just 6. He later spotted the same 12-year-old amid a crowd of extras on the set of The Kid in 1920. His behavior was that of a P from the start. He called Lolita his Age of Innocence girl and asked a set decorator to paint her in the style of Joshua Reynolds' famous 18th century portrait, The Age of Innocence.
When did I meet Charlie? I was 6 years old. The proprietor of a little tea shop on Hollywood Boulevard had taken me by the hand to meet the famous Charlie, who was seated at a table.
Chaplin helped her land small roles, including one in 1921's The Idle Class, and persuaded the teenager to change her name to Lita Grey, after a silver gray kitten he had given her. He'd try to create people. He enjoyed being the first person in a girl's life, Grey told the LA Times in 1989. In 1924, he cast her as the lead female in The Gold Rush. Chaplin was determined to seduce her and finally did so in the steam room of his Beverly Hills mansion. At that time, he was 35. She was merely 15.
And I couldn't quite figure out how this was the same man seated at this table as the man I saw on the screen. It kind of scared me, and I ran back to my mother.
During that period, Chaplin openly expressed his infatuation with young girls, articulating an unsettling admiration for their perceived purity. In a 1926 interview with Vanity Fair, when asked to describe his ideal woman, Chaplin disturbingly responded, "I am not exactly in love with her, but she is entirely in love with me." Interestingly, there's a credible theory suggesting that the relationship between Chaplin and Lolita may have influenced Vladimir Nabokov when he penned the novel Lolita, which narrates a middle-aged professor's illicit affair with his underage stepdaughter. Publisher George Weidenfeld claimed that Nabokov, a great admirer of Chaplin's silent films, had social interactions with Chaplin, adding another layer to the complex interplay between art and life. Lolita Grey found herself infatuated with Chaplin and vulnerable to his manipulative tactics. The truth surfaced when Grey collapsed on the set of The Gold Rush, revealing that she was pregnant. In her memoir, My Life with Chaplin, Grey recounted that a family member, armed with a shotgun, confronted Chaplin at his mansion. Following this confrontation, her uncle Edwin McMurray, who was a lawyer, issued a stern warning. If Chaplin did not marry Grey, the family would pursue charges of statutory R. At 5 o'clock in the morning on November 24, 1924, in the Mexican village of Empalme, Chaplin married Grey in a discreet ceremony intended to avoid public attention. Despite his efforts, a couple of resourceful reporters discovered the secret wedding. It was reported that Chaplin, upon being discovered, humorously remarked, "Well, boys, this is better than the penitentiary, but it won't last." The brief period of goodwill didn't even endure a day. On the train back from Mexico, where Grey asserted that Chaplin had resorted to intimidation in an attempt to force her into getting an abortion, the situation escalated dramatically. Grey alleged that Chaplin not only called her a W, but also physically pushed her onto the platform of the observation carriage, insinuating that she should jump to her death. Reflecting on the tumultuous incident in 1960, Grey described the entire situation as ridiculous from the start, recalling Chaplin's unsettling promise to make her so damn sick of me that you won't want to live with me. Despite welcoming 2 children in quick succession, Charles Jr. in May 1925 and Sidney in March 1926, Lita Grey grew weary of Charlie Chaplin's cruelty and infidelity. She filed for divorce in January 1927. In contrast to the modern era of live blogs and constant social media commentary on celebrity divorces, the details of Chaplin's tumultuous and brutal breakup were largely kept hidden.
He was using his own money, and he was a perfectionist, so we got back to the studio.
When Judge Walter Guerin granted Grey a divorce on August 2, 1927, he awarded her a record settlement of $785,000, equivalent to around $47 million today. In a bid to preserve privacy, Judge Guerin ruled that all sensational matters be deleted from the lawsuit account. The divorce was granted on the sole grounds of cruelty. This marked a stark contrast to the current era, where high-profile divorces often play out in the public eye with extensive media coverage and public scrutiny. Charles Chaplin was given assurances that all documents related to the divorce case would be sealed in a bank vault and kept confidential. With the final settlement, the Chaplin divorce case disappeared from the newspapers for good, confidently declared Charles Chaplin Jr. in his 1960 memoir, My Father, Charlie Chaplin. Unfortunately, Chaplin Jr. passed away at the age of 42, succumbing to AIDS just 2 years later, long before fate unveiled an unexpected twist. In 2015, the carefully guarded secrets of the divorce case were unexpectedly exposed when the 50-page legal document from Lita Grey's legal team surfaced for auction at Parade Antiques in Plymouth. The revelation came to light when the documents, originally promised to be sealed, were obtained from an individual in America tasked with clearing out old documents at a disused bank, as explained by owner John Cabello.
He was a very sensuous man. I don't know that I could get into any detail on that, really. That would be indelicate.
Lita Grey initiated the divorce proceedings, citing serial infidelity, cruelty, and grievous mental suffering as the grounds for dissolution. Chaplin's behavior, characterized by sensational details, made headlines globally. Grey confirmed disturbing incidents, such as Chaplin attempting to use a pistol to coerce her into having an abortion. She also revealed how he intentionally delayed reporting the birth of Charles Jr. until months later, creating the false appearance that the child was conceived within wedlock. She claimed that Chaplin had read obscene books to her, including novels by D.H. Lawrence, and forced her to engage in a perverted, degenerate, and indecent act. At the time, OS was a criminal offense in California, and Grey made clear that she had been made to perform fellatio. She stated that Chaplin had shouted that all married people do those kind of things. You are my wife, and you have to do what I want you to do. The divorce proceedings between Chaplin and Grey included additional disturbing allegations. It was claimed that Chaplin, who was reportedly taking up to 8 showers a day while residing with Grey, had requested his wife to participate in a threesome with another woman. Moreover, there were accusations that Chaplin had installed a listening device in Grey's bedroom, intensifying the already tumultuous and invasive nature of their relationship.
He's listening to the girl in the next room. It was very thin.
Chaplin's eventual agreement to pay substantial damages was likely compelled by Grey's threat to reveal the names of 5 married actresses who had engaged in intimacy with him during their marriage. The film studios, keen to avoid such scandalous revelations, were motivated to keep these details out of the public domain. It's notable that the film industry, seemingly grateful for Chaplin's contributions, honored him with a Special Academy Award in 1929.
Thank you so much. This is an emotional moment for me. And words seem so futile, so feeble.
Praising his versatility and genius. Despite leaving the court with substantial wealth, Lita Grey faced considerable challenges in the aftermath. According to Charles Chaplin Jr., her son, she experienced 2 serious breakdowns later in life. During the first breakdown, the bitterness of her tumultuous marriage with Chaplin resurfaced in terrifying fantasies. She developed an aversion to classical music, especially Wagner, her ex-husband's favorite composer, and would leave the room in anguish when it played.
So it's anybody's question as to whether he was taken with me really when I was younger even than 16.
Grey's financial situation also took a hit as she lost most of her fortune in imprudent nightclub and property deals. At one point, she had to support herself and her children by working as a sales assistant at Robinson's department store in Beverly Hills. Grey went on to marry 3 more times before succumbing to cancer in 1995, marking a complex and challenging journey for her beyond the high-profile divorce from Chaplin.
Because he was a genius, and geniuses do and think odd things as compared to other people.
However, Charlie Chaplin was known for boasting about his exploits, claiming to have had intimate relations with over 2,000 women. One of his reported party tricks was using his mimicry skills to impersonate leading Hollywood ladies. Experiencing Lita Grey characterized Chaplin as a human S-machine, suggesting that his promiscuity served as a cover for a man filled with insecurities. She attributed these insecurities to Chaplin's notoriously deprived background in London, shedding light on the psychological complexities behind his public persona.
I was really hungry for people my own age. I was pretty much of a kid, at 17.
This analysis was shared by Chaplin's biography Peter Ackroyd, who wrote, "The roots of his deeply dysfunctional behavior with women went all the way back to his childhood, for the truth was that he had never really recovered from being abandoned by his mother when he was just a little boy, for the best part of a year." Charlie Chaplin's attraction to young girls became a well-known aspect of his reputation in Hollywood after his divorce. Despite the awareness, there was no shortage of starlets willing to engage with him. When Paulette Goddard, a child fashion model, first met Chaplin, she was savvy enough to claim she was 17, even though she was actually 22 at the time. Their romance progressed, leading to a secret marriage in China in 1936, the same year Goddard starred in Chaplin's masterpiece, Modern Times.
Have you seen him before? Yes, it's Charlie Chaplin without his props, unless Paulette Goddard comes into that category.
Chaplin made concerted efforts to keep their relationship out of the public eye. When it eventually came to an end in June 1942, Goddard secured a quickie divorce in Mexico. In exchange for her silence on the details of their life together, she received a generous settlement. At the age of 54, Chaplin entered into another marriage within a year, this time with teenager Una O'Neill. Una, who had been pursued by author J.D. Salinger earlier, was 17 when she first met Chaplin. She expressed her admiration for him, noting to a friend, "What blue eyes he has." In Chaplin's autobiography, My Autobiography, he described meeting O'Neill as the happiest event of my life. However, the union faced disapproval from Una's father, Nobel-winning playwright Eugene O'Neill, who had authored the play Long Day's Journey into Night. In published correspondence, O'Neill expressed his disapproval of his then 18-year-old daughter's decision to elope with Chaplin to a small village near Santa Barbara, where they married in June 1943. O'Neill accused Chaplin of ruining young girls and engaging in various forms of perversion. The strained relationship resulted in rare communication between father and daughter, leading to O'Neill disinheriting Una.
Is decidedly clever.
Modesty forbids.
And here it says,
Eugene O'Neill's disapproval surely intensified when only a year later he learned that Chaplin was facing charges by the FBI for violating the Mann Act. The accusations alleged that Chaplin transported 23-year-old actress Joan Barry across state borders for S purposes, and there was also a paternity suit from Barry. Although Chaplin was ultimately acquitted of the charges, he was ordered to pay maintenance until the child's 21st birthday. Chaplin's proclivity for relationships with younger women became increasingly published in newspapers. Time magazine, in particular, noted his involvement with a succession of pretty young protégés. The public and media showed little sympathy for Chaplin's complaints about how Barry's attorney, Joseph Scott, was attempting to depict him as a monster. Newspapers carried detailed reports of the summary by Scott, who described Chaplin as a pestiferous, lecherous hound, adding that this fellow doesn't lie like a gentleman, he lies like a cheap Cockney cad. That man goes around fornicating with the same aplomb that the average man orders bacon and eggs for breakfast. He is a hoary-headed old buzzard with the instincts of a young bull, a master mechanic in the art of seduction. The increasing public scrutiny and controversies surrounding Chaplin's personal life began to take a toll on his career. Only 7 years after being celebrated for his anti-fascist triumph in The Great Dictator, Chaplin experienced a significant setback with the disastrous flop of his black comedy Monsieur Verdoux in 1947. As he sailed for England in 1952 to promote his next film, Limelight, which focused on a washed-up comedian, the U.S. authorities seized an opportunity. They sent Chaplin a telegram revoking his U.S. re-entry permit unless he could prove his moral worth. In April 1953, he surrendered his permit, declaring, "It is not easy to uproot myself and my family from a country where I have lived for 40 years without a feeling of sadness. But since the end of the last World War, I have been the object of lies and vicious propaganda by powerful reactionary groups. Under these conditions, I find it virtually impossible to continue my motion picture work, and I have therefore given up my residence in the United States." Chaplin's banishment from America was widely reported in newspapers, and the sentiment expressed was not universally sympathetic. A particularly blunt and critical assessment came from the Pulitzer Prize-winning Chicago Tribune columnist Westbrook Pegler, who was known for his right-wing views. Pegler declared that the U.S. was getting rid of a filthy character who is a menace to young girls. After being banished from the United States, the Chaplins settled in the Manoir de Ban, a 37-acre Swiss estate overlooking Lake Geneva. Charlie Chaplin chose to live in seclusion there, making only one return to the U.S. in April 1972 to accept an honorary Oscar. At the ceremony, he expressed, with Una at his side, "I feel as if I were the object of a complete renaissance, as if I were being reborn." During their time together, Charlie and Una Chaplin had 8 children, with their last child born when Chaplin was 73. Christopher, his 11th and final child, was 15 when Chaplin passed away on Christmas Day in 1977 at the age of 88. Una Chaplin lived for another 14 years. During this time, she reportedly struggled with and was rumored, as detailed in Jane Scoville's 1998 biography, to have had affairs with Ryan O'Neal and David Bowie.
Schopenhauer said happiness is a negative state, but I disagree. For the last 30 years, I've known what happiness means. I have the good fortune.
Charlie Chaplin left an enduring and brilliant legacy in cinema. His unique style combined slapstick with pathos, turning physical comedy into an art form. His iconic portrayal of the tramp character exemplified the human struggle against adversity. Even in recent years, he was honored for his contributions to the movie industry. And at this point, people relate Chaplin and Weinstein scandals way too much because there are many common factors in their scandals. In February 2012, Harvey Weinstein co-hosted a dinner celebrating Charlie Chaplin's contributions to the film industry. The event was attended by numerous Hollywood stars, including Rose McGowan, who later accused Weinstein of R. When questioned about the gathering, Weinstein commented that he considered Chaplin to be one of my idols, certainly. Initially perceived as a routine Hollywood tribute, the revelations about Weinstein's misconduct now cast a different shadow on that occasion.
He's one of the best actors when motivated. You know, you see performances in Wall Street.
The Weinstein saga serves as a cautionary tale about unrestrained male power and wealth, accompanied by the implicit shield that often accompanies such status. Weinstein, well aware of the dynamics at play, recognized that Charlie Chaplin had experienced comparable privileges for many years. While the specific allegations against these cinematic giants may not mirror each other precisely, they share common sociological origins. As highlighted in a recent biography of Chaplin, Charlie was a nightmare to be married to and a person with questionable ethics across the board. Perhaps this description understates the gravity of the situation.
I just thought the way he just looked like a dirty old man to me. Long hair down onto his shoulders and a dreamy look out of his eyes.
While Weinstein's transgressions were on a distinct level, the mistreatment of women in Hollywood has a long-standing history. From Edna Purviance in Chaplin's World War I-era comedies to Paulette Goddard in 1940's The Great Dictator, nearly all of Chaplin's leading ladies found themselves in intimate relationships with their director. The lone significant exception, Virginia Cherrill from City Lights, was still partially chosen by Chaplin based on her shapely form in a blue bathing suit. Accounts from casting sessions for earlier films revealed Chaplin's aides noting his scrutinizing gaze on the lithe young bodies. The atmosphere on his sets was far from pleasant.
It just made me more hungry than ever to have young people, you know, for company. And he okayed a party that I was going to give at the Biltmore.
Age was a big factor here, and thus power. Speaking of his love for young girls while then a man in his mid-30s, Chaplin noted that there was something so virginal in their slimness, in their slender arms and legs. One such example, Lita Grey. He cast in the kid at the age of 12, got pregnant and had a shotgun Mexican marriage to avoid going to jail for statutory R at 16, and had filed for divorce by 18. What's noteworthy here is that Chaplin's penchant for younger partners was openly recognized as peculiar during that era. Media reports frequently describe Grey as Chaplin's child wife or girl wife, and Hollywood gossip was rife with discussions about the Lita Grey narrative. Still, he managed to do whatever he wanted to do. One person on the internet wrote, "He did these crazy things just to get the women to make their own decision to leave him, so he wouldn't look like the one who abandoned his own children." Charlie was capable of anything. I can imagine one of those things would be manipulation on a large scale, but I'll always be a fan of his work. No matter what, this man was the Michael Jackson of film. No one can deny. Another one added, "I should be shocked, but I'm not. It sucks that it happened, but it feels like this type of stuff is kind of common for the time." While Chaplin's actions may not mirror the exact allegations against Weinstein, his case, deemed by Weinstein as emblematic of one of the greatest filmmakers, highlights a persistent pattern of power misuse in Hollywood. This trend extends from Chaplin to figures like Roman Polanski and Woody Allen, and more recently, allegations against actor Kevin Spacey.
Because this fucking industry is a monster.
The unfettered creative and economic freedom enjoyed by such influential figures occasionally results in outstanding cinema. However, it has also given rise to a super elite capable of operating in the shadows of the law, widely known about but often overlooked. Since Chaplin's era, the concentration of wealth in the movie industry has only intensified this issue. The problem is deeply ingrained in Hollywood tradition, creating a systemic challenge. Despite its immense scale, much like revelations from other industries such as Westminster, the Weinstein case is not an isolated incident, but rather a symptom of a long-standing issue within the entertainment world. That's it for today. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.